Today on Drawbli.
I am drawing faster than ever before.
Hey, I'm Ben.
And I'm Abby.
And we are self-taught artists documenting our journey of learning to draw, which is, of course, better with friends.
So, click that subscribe button if you're new around here.
And I'm here to be fast. Check out our guidebook, How to Easily Draw Every Day, down below in the description. Abby, you're drawing faster than ever before. I don't believe you.
Okay, so here's all my convoluted thoughts on that. Let's see if
You've
we can...
You just sped up this footage. That's what's happening here.
Dang it, he's on to me. I noticed that this little JPEG that I sat down to recreate as a drawing, it did not take me as long to get to a quote-unquote finished point than it used to.
Oh.
Or would have taken me a longer time ago.
A longer time ago.
And I thought, that's cool. If I can get to this quote-unquote finished point in this amount of time, that means that, you know, if it only takes me now like an hour to get to a point that used to take me 2 hours to get to, maybe I'm ready to start pushing things farther and like refining more and finishing more.
So that point that takes you now, like, let's say an hour to get to, is that your sketch? Is that what you're talking about?
No, it is the end of this piece.
Oh.
I didn't actually push on it more, but I thought, what if I did?
But what if I did?
I didn't though.
Okay.
But what if I did?
So that is the point. That's the secret. You've done it. You've found it out. Remember?
These are my ruminations.
So a long time ago, when we kind of started Drawbli, I said we are going to mostly focus on quantity. And I think that there are times to focus on quality. But for the most part, as a beginner to intermediate artist, you know, in my opinion, most of your time is better spent working on the early stages of an artwork. You're going to learn a lot more from doing a lot of little projects as opposed to doing big projects. And that doesn't mean that you're not going to learn from doing big projects, but it just means that your time is most likely better spent doing lots of little things.
Yes, so I've done a lot of little things, and now, you know, maybe it's starting to finally pay off to the point where I'm a lot better at like the early stages. Granted, this is nothing to super write home about.
And it's not finally paying off. You're noticing that it's changed. You go through periods of noticing improvement in yourself. And sometimes it feels like you're not improving when you actually are.
You can see that I'm sticking with certain workflow ideas that I've adopted lately, such as a canvas background, red pencil for sketch, and the gouache brush for filling in color.
I must take umbrage here because I do not see the selection tool of all.
That was an experimentation in my last piece, but I did not use that here. No.
In your last video, you just said how amazing the selection tool is, and you're back on it.
And I was dabbling in it, and it's suitable for many moments, but this obviously was not that moment.
Oh, you are but a dabbler.
I'm but a dabbler. I just dabbled without it. Plus, I wasn't really sure where this piece would go. Sometimes you just never know. Like at this point in this learning to draw process, I feel like I never know sitting down if a piece is going to turn out like, oh, I like this, or no, I'm going to spend an hour trying to fix the index finger to look less horrible and hate the whole thing by the end.
Yeah.
But this wasn't one of those times. This was just this looks fine.
And that's just like one of many things that could happen. What you just described there is like getting tunnel vision on one thing. But there's just an infinite number of things that could potentially go wrong.
Yes, and I very intentionally didn't let myself tunnel in on the hands. I could have, but those probably I left alone a lot more than I normally do. Also, in this one, I think you asked me a couple weeks ago, like, oh, do you not paint over your lines? And I said, no, I love their energy. And in this one, I'm like, I'm going to paint over my lines.
That was for our little art swap that we did.
Oh, yeah.
So you were working on one of mine, and I was working on one of yours. So we traded sketches and then painted the sketches. And I was like, oh, you don't like paint over your lines eventually? And you're like, never, haha.
Although in this one, I did do my line work a lot differently than I normally do, in that I faded out my sketch and I went back over it with different line weights, because that's what we've been learning lately from, what's his name?
It is Caleb scrolls up on notes. Double.
Ah, thank you.
Dubel.
Yes. And I liked the effect, actually. It provided a lot of clarity to me on the focus of, like, what was important and the thick line. I don't know. It was all making sense. That's why I drew over all the lines.
Rewind for 5 seconds. I said Caleb. It is, in fact, Colton Dubel. I am bad at reading.
Okay.
Anyway, I really love the lines in the hat. That big flower looking super cool.
Yeah, those lines I do leave in.
I have always really liked your style of sketching, like the shapes that you create, and it's been so fun to watch you just continue to improve that.
Well, thank you. I also admire your work too. So,
But I will say that there are certain things that I don't like about your lines or your sketches or the shapes that you use.
oh, what do you not like? I'm here for this. This is going to be insightful.
Yes, roast me, roast my art. No,
No, this is the part people pay money for. It's critical feedback.
well, the thing is, like, we have different styles and things that we like and we gravitate towards. So there are certain elements of your style that I'm like, ooh, I want to pull in elements of that, but not that. Or there are just certain parts of your style that I do like that I can appreciate, but say that they're not for me.
So, what is it? What is it?
You have a very nice organic flow with a lot of your lines, but I have more of a structural style myself, where I prefer more structural, hard edges, like sharp lines, whereas you are more flowy and curvilinear.
So maybe I do a lot more like soft edges, you're saying?
No, I'm just talking about your lines, but not that that is a bad thing. That's just something that I don't want necessarily all the time in my art.
Yeah, no, I'm actually trying to figure out exactly, like, see an example of what you mean.
Oh, like, for example, your fingers. Or the shapes. So it's really hard to notice things about your own art, I will say.
No, that's why I appreciate you
like
going
the
into
shapes
detail.
that you created in the flower. I'm like, oh wow, that's really beautiful. That's not how I would have done it though.
So wait, where's the critique? You're not giving me critique.
Oh, you expect critique?
I do.
Here's one thing that I really dislike about your art style. It's actually not. It's actually more about your process. I love how you're moving your image over to the side to crop it, by the way, off the screen. That is hilarious to me always. You don't fill in solid colors for your paint. So when you just painted out your background behind the head with that cream color, you could see it through the flower.
I liked
or
that.
other parts.
I
Okay, I'm glad that you like it.
I was
do.
intentional.
For
I'm
me,
not being defensive. I'm just like, oh, you noticed. Cool. That was my. I thought I was being a genius.
I hate that part because when sometimes we've worked on each other's work, I'm like, why is this layer like only 50% filled in? What is going on here?
That has many times it's many times gone very poorly for me in other pieces where I've not intended to like backlight an object like that. So yes, I do agree. I think it's something that I'd like to fix. I am just so like gentle in my color buildup, whereas you go in with like a very like solid fill and drop the opacity. I slowly build up opacity and slowly build up like color, and
such a traditional artist over here.
It's not the greatest workflow. I think what you do tends to work better, but I also really struggle to work with your really hard edges.
You just don't understand my art.
I guess not. And I really like a lot of soft edges, I guess. Like, I don't know. So
I really like how you just kind of go in and paint the idea of something. The classic Abby style.
yeah.
Where like,
I catch the vibe.
I mean, like, looking at the eyes, I would never paint the character's eyes how soft you've painted them. But it's such a cool style. Like, it looks awesome. It's super cool.
Thank you.
Like, it's hard to see where things begin and end. Like, things are like blending together.
Yeah.
But it reads. And it reads well.
Thank you.
So for me, I'd be like, no, I must define it perfectly.
I've had pieces where I've tried, certainly. And in this particular one, I just happen to like the way it went with this more simple approach. The eyebrows gave me a lot of trouble. I don't think you can tell, or maybe you might not have noticed, but I repainted the eyebrows several times.
Several. By the way, this is a Maiko girl?
I mean, I'm choosing to interpret her that way. She
Okay.
probably is not. In
Gotcha.
fact, the way she has her like shoulders uncovered is probably definitely not. But I did love that show, the Mykono, I think. I'm not sure
The
exactly.
Makanai?
Makanai.
Yeah.
Cooking for the Maiko House on Netflix. Very, very charming little slice of life, I guess you would call it.
I've seen maybe half an episode.
It was the most soothing thing. If you're ever somebody who has trouble sleeping, well, don't watch TV to fall asleep. But the soundtrack from it, the music from it is very, very calming. So I like it a lot.
And if you want more calming, click that like and subscribe button. And check out our guidebook, How to Easily Draw Every Day, at the link below in the description.
Share your work on Instagram with #Drawbli because drawing is better with friends.
And this is the part where we say...
Goodbye.
Goomba.
Did you watch any of that show with me?
I watched like half an episode.
Yeah. Did you like it?
It was, yeah.
You didn't like it.
It was a
You
show.
didn't like it. You didn't like it. I liked it. That's okay. You
It's
don't need to
okay.
like it.
It's okay if I didn't like it. I'm sure if I saw more, I might like it more.
You would love it.
Oh.